giving people possibilities, so that it's not only male maybe who dominates something. So you were to bring women as well, and then they play their part. And this was a good event, very exciting. We are able to see, now it comes to tactics, where you play tactics, and you have to analyze what other teams are bringing into the field, and you able to play and be able to calculate and see, what you can do. So that's the reason why this mixed relay came up, and it was an addition of an event that never existed before this. So that's good, and that's more of access to the competition.
And actually, speaking of tactics, coach, it's very interesting. What do you think lends the insight into how they plan out these races? Who starts? A man goes into, hands over to a woman who finishes. So, what determines these sorts of tactics in a mixed relay? Yeah,
the first thing you got to do is figure out what every team comes in with, how fast they are, and then analyze each athlete in those teams, and in every other team that you're competing with, how fast each athlete is. Then you mismatch. It's just like playing cards. It's very interesting, it makes it good.
Watson?
It is very interesting, and as far as this final econs is concerned, all the 4 teams have decided to go ahead with the male athletes. Is it a strategy that we might see probably in the next one will be all ladies? Again, I'll remember that race where Mary Moraa was matched up against a very lanky Brazilian, and almost everybody thought this was a goner for Kenya.
Depending on how each team came in there, you can maybe go man, and then male, and then run women. But on the other hand, you have to figure out how much distance you can be able to put in, and then make either people chase or your chase. So whichever way you decide, it's either being chased or chasing.
Right.
And see the benefits of at the end. So I believe the issue of Moraa and the Brazilian athlete was that the Brazilian athlete was actually tired. There was nothing he could give into at the home straight. And Moraa had another extra gear, the 5th gear, so she put in and she coasted home. So
right,
that's how this thing goes.
And just to quickly take you through the different teams, it's Athletics Kenya C, B, A, and D, named very simply. I think, of course, what's different is the athletes and, of course, the times and their personal best that they have ran in these different races.
And it's exciting, and as the coach said, it's I think the dynamics of who starts, who follows, that actually make it very interesting. And from where we sit, we can see the athletes actually cheering on their teammates, giving almost like a war cry, and makes it all exciting and jittery. And it actually, this is one race that I'm always excited to watch.
Inaitwa kuchocha.
The relay is a very exciting event. The teamwork, and that's when you're able to give your life for your teammates and go for it.
Right, and they are off. And remember, the 400 meters, for those not very versed with athletics, is 1 lap, and then they will hand over the baton to their teammates where actually the finish line is. And we can see again the teams are preparing, and all ladies to go to the 2nd lap, coach.
And I think another thing that's really interesting first is how they take the bend, and most importantly, their transition. Coach, it's all about technique as well. It's not as easy as, how it looks on TV, at least, in terms of just handing the baton over, no?
Right. It is, and then they have to run a stagger as well, and then they break in. Now the second leg has to break in, and that's where it is very tactical, as you say. Usually, the second leg is a 200-meter runner who is more of a sprinter, so that they can be able to negotiate the curve and get break in as quickly as possible, then coast in. You run your best, the fastest person, usually in the second leg.
And I'm actually very curious to understand how all this works, because I see the athletes in the first lap almost... Coach, I see that athletes that on the first lap, they maintain their lanes, and after the handover or the changeover, that's when we see them mix and all of them go into the inner lane. Is that the technicality? Is that the rule of the sport?
Yes, that's the rule because of the stagger. When you start, somebody's in the 8 lane, they have to start in the front. But then now the second leg has to be one turn, and then that's why they have to break in. So the staggers are based on the fact of on these curves, the first curve and the second curve, the distance between the first lane, second lane to the 8 lane. So that's why they have to break in. And the same thing with the 800, where they have to run just the curve and then break in. The stagger is much shorter. It's the same thing with the 200-meter race. The 200-meter race, the stagger is shorter. The 4x4 is longer because you have to take 3 turns: the first, the second, and the third.
Right, and Athletics Kenya Team A currently in the lead, and of course that team does consist of Cleophas Kipruto, Mary Moraa, the famous Mary Moraa, as Watson had put it, Helen Siombua, Emmanuel Korir. They are looking very strong, and Watson, as you can see, they are starting to distance themselves, and we don't know if it will be this transition that will change things.
And they're off. Mary Moraa right there handing the baton to her teammate, and look at the pace that they have set in that race. It's incredible. Coach, many people say anybody who has done the 800 meters can actually go ahead and race in the 400 meters. Is it that easy, really?
Not necessarily. We have the 400, 800 meter runners and the 800, 1500 meter runners. So you have to know who is the 400, 800 meter runner that you can be able to put in a 4x4 race.
This is incredible, of course, and again, as you said, Mary Moraa, who just qualified for the Olympics just last week, here she is, gave the baton to her teammate, and that team, that is AK Team A, actually goes ahead to cross the line first, followed by AK Team D, then B, then AK Team C.
Fantastic, Watson. Don't forget that this is the final, meaning only the first 2 automatically qualify, and we will be taking you those we will be taking you through those rules shortly. Just to remind you, only the first 2 qualify automatically for the Tokyo Games. When it comes to number 3 or the 3rd position, that will be down to a panel of selectors, and there is criteria for that as well. That time for Team A, 3 minutes 16.22 seconds, and just to take you through that team, Cleophas Kipruto, as we said earlier, Mary Moraa, Helen Siombua, and Emmanuel Kipkirui Korir. An amazing effort from them. As we were saying, Watson, we are getting better at the relays. We are getting better at, I will say, the short to mid distances. Even when we talk about incorporating hurdles, we did see Boniface Musheru 4 or 5 years ago with an amazing effort in the 400 meters hurdles that we will be getting to later on this morning. We do have the 400 meters hurdles men's final as well.